So you only give our audience, our best friends, your best quality audio. For everyone else, they use the crap that you throw around
hmm
for
hmm
convenience.
You know what the problem
Uh,
is? The problem is it's not the quality. The problem is the content.
so you're giving the worst content to everyone else, and the good content you keep here at home. And what's your
That's
baseline?
what you
I
say.
see.
That's what you say. So we'll see.
Yeah, you be
Uh,
the judge, audience.
Welcome to the What's Your Baseline podcast, where we demystify enterprise architecture and business process management.
We're here to bring best practices and lessons learned from our years to your ears, as well as interviewing friends we've met along the way on our professional journeys.
My name is Roland Wold, and I'm joined today by my co-host, J.M. Erlinson.
Hey, JM, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Roland. Oh my goodness, I've had a crazy week. People come and visit sometimes, and they often ask me to sort of tour guide for them because I know the place pretty well. And this week has been doing a lot of that, and I don't mind. It's a good opportunity to go do some tourist stuff in the town you know so well. And when you live somewhere you don't often think about the sites and go and see them, you kind of go, it's always there, I can head whenever I want, and then you never end up going.
Yeah,
But
but
you know what, it
you know
is some
that,
amount of work.
but you know that that old saying, that guests are like a fish dish that should be gone after 3 days.
Is that another Germanism that I don't know? My goodness, it's a
No,
good one
actually,
though.
I learned it here. I'm pretty sure I've botched
Ah,
it, but I think the rule of thumb is still good. 3 days.
wow. Well, speaking of guests gone after 3 days, we have guests gone after 90 minutes of recording with us. And today is no exception because we're inviting some friends for some short but very targeted knowledge to share with others. So, Roland, today's conversation is going to be about making friends or not, because I know a lot of people have a lot of trouble with compliance. And
hmm
it's such a hard such a hard pitch to do more than just satisfy their requirements and tell them like 3 days to get the hell out. And I don't know, what do you think that organizations really do to deserve the kind of hell that they put themselves through for compliance?
Why do you ask me? I went
Oh,
the extra mile to get a guest for this topic on the show. So let me introduce Christof Layher, who is running his own podcast, not necessarily about compliance, but mostly about life sciences, because that's the playground that he plays in. And compliance is obviously a big topic there. So welcome, Christoph, to our little show that could.
yay. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. And to answer
Welcome.
your question, to answer the question, how companies deserve that? Hey, they choose it by themselves because of the playfield where that they started to enter.
Yeah, that's a
If
very
that's your
wide
industry.
definition. That's a very wide definition, Yeah, I think there's a little bit more, like regulations and all that stuff. But hey, before we get to this, maybe we give our audience a chance to get to know you a little bit better. I did the mini teaser. I know you're running a podcast, and by coincidence, I've been a guest on that show too. But I'm pretty sure you do a little bit more than just podcasting. So, Christoph, tell us a little bit more about who are you and what have you done in the past and why are you here?
Is this a more esoterical question or?
Oh, read it
We
however
want to
you
know about you
like.
as a human being. Yeah.
Okay. So who am I?
Yeah, please. How about let's start with the very tangible stuff, and then we can get into the more mind mapping your whole journey through this space of meat that we navigate. How about that?
Okay, let's try it. So, yes, as said, I'm Christoph. I'm doing a part-time podcast. It still does not pay the bills, so I have to do something else. So what I do since around, I don't know, 25 years or so-ish. I play on the fine line between IT team, digitization teams, compliance teams, business, always somewhere in this battle space. Basically, I coming from the IT, so from the implementation side, and all the other stuff did come by time.
Wonderful. And that seems like a varied work experience. But tell us a little bit more about yourself as a person. So, what are some things you love, hobbies, interests, and we like to always ask bucket list items, things you want to get done before you die, which is a sort of morbid way of putting your highest desires out there in the world.
Important thing to do before I die is, of course, do a podcast with you.
Oh,
Hey,
they can check that
done
off your
today.
bucket list.
Yes.
Check.
Good
So,
pandering. Good pandering.
what do I do? I like to do some mixed sports. Let's say I like to do functional sports, like obstacle course racing. As you might have a lot of listeners from the States, you might know GoRuck and that kind of things. It's not so known in the European space, but um, yeah, that's a fun thing. I do some kind of fighting sports. Krav Maga is my thing.
Yeah, and one of the things you like to talk about is obviously compliance topics. And with that, maybe Christoph, we dive into the interview and tell me a little bit about from your experience. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier. You're in the life science industry, and that's obviously a highly, for good reasons, a highly regulated industry. You know, if you have that little pill, you don't want to have people drop like flies after you send out a charge. Anyway, so why does everyone seems to hate compliance, and why am I the only guy who likes those guys? Because hint hint, they can create budget for projects, but why does everybody hate them?
I don't know if you know that experience. If you have broken a leg and it's widely spread open, you see the bones sticking
Mhm.
out, and compliance are the guys who are saying, your leg is not okay. You should
I
stop
know that.
doing what you did so
Yeah.
far.
So compliance are the ones pointing out the uncomfortable truths that you should
Yes.
already have seen. Boy,
Yes.
that's one heck of a
That's
statement. And so that implies a few different things. The first is compliance is faced constantly with organizations who themselves notice but do not want to point out and address serious issue. First and foremost, why do organizations allow serious issues, like let's say you're walking around on a broken leg, to persist? Like, what is the motivation for them to suffer pain and not solve it?
Yeah, maybe we need to have some psychological doctors to visit to that answer. I don't know. It's often I would say it's a mystery. It's not understandable on one side, but of course, if you if you carry the same shoes and look, okay, how does it happen to me? Because it happens to everyone. It becomes pretty clear because we are used to do it otherwise. And so we stay with it, and sometimes for longer than it's good for us.
You mean the bad behavior,
Yeah,
or
right.
do you think, in all seriousness, do you think it's intentional, or do you think
No,
it's oversight, or do you think it's too much of a burden on organizations to be compliant? What is the reason? Because obviously, as you said, nobody wants to hear the obvious. You know, you broke your leg. To stick with that example,
Mm.
but why is that from your perspective? What do you see in organizations? How do they rationalize that?
I don't think it is intended in,
Hmm.
let's say, 95% of the cases. Only very few do it by intent. So why? It might be because you simply don't see it. You look to the other leg. Or at a moment you have the broken foot, you are walking on your hand. So You don't see the food at that point, or you are used to it. Oh, I work with this broken leg since 2 years, so it need to be good. Or
Mhm.
I think it's some kind of a bias in many cases, of a blind spot that you have.
I feel like a lot of organizations are designed to be resilient. We talk about organizational like resilience and operational resiliency, but where operational resiliency becomes a way of effectively compensating for serious procedural issues, serious structural issues within an organization, it starts being like a crutch that prevents you from ever noticing and ever addressing
Mhm.
things that could cause serious compliance issues, could cause legal risk that ultimately makes you operate worse because
Mhm.
the thing you're walking on isn't a leg, it's a crutch, and that's not a good procedure for your whole organization to be built off of. So
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. And one of the things we talked about before the episode started is a little bit about this idea of being a terrible messenger. I feel like maybe that's a bad rap. Tell me a little bit more about the messenger problem.
Let me first jump back to the other question. What are the causes of this? Because one of the causes is one thing that we want to have in the companies. We want to have people that fix things. We want to have superheroes, and most of us want to be some kind of superhero. So often we fix things that should not be fixed in that way that we as a single person can do it. So often it's this reflex to just proceed and make the things work and don't fix the underlying issue.
Yeah, I was thinking you were referring to the good German word "verschlimmbessern," which I think is not translatable. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I thought I hear now you say that may be a little bit distracted. Oh yeah, I need to fix this problem,
yeah,
and I don't care about all the other stuff.
yeah. I see the input coming from this team is not good, but I want to proceed with my work. So
Hmm.
I think about a solution how I can fix it. And
Yeah,
then I fix it, and it works, and it works, and it works. So no one in the company sees it because it's running. We don't have a visible issue.
Yeah, it's one of those detection problems. People are really
Yeah,
easy at detecting things when they occur and really poor at
yeah,
detecting them when they don't occur or detecting that they didn't occur. A good example of that is if you put a bunch of O's in a single Q, then people can
yeah.
easily detect the Q because it's an extra little leg. But a bunch of Q's in a single O, it's very hard to detect the missing
Mm,
leg of that
right.
English character. Which I think that's an interesting problem with compliance and with sort of identifying broken processes that don't that are being compensated for that you don't understand or you don't see because they don't ever cause a serious issue, but not that they wouldn't, but they currently aren't or they haven't in your time. So then let's go back to this messaging thing. Like,
Yeah,
it's obviously an awful thing to have to tell people, listen, like, you're out of compliance, you are broken, and you think you're okay because currently it's working, but that's a bias, right? Like, that's the idea that people are saying
exactly.
because it is good now, it will always be good.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the thing. People like to shoot a messenger, and compliance is the messenger. So we detect the things that are there. So let's think about a piece of software that has to be developed, and then they discuss the things, and then some people, classically IT development, someone develops a thing, and then they are ready to go. And the only thing left is to do the compliance checklist. And then they go into and say, okay, we need to test it. Okay, we test it against what? Oh, user requirements. Okay, what did the user say? Uh, I don't know. Did you talk with him? No, I didn't. I thought you did. Oh, okay. So, okay, let's go to the next point. So, we need to ensure patient safety. How do we do that? Oh, we need to have this data integrity thing. Uh, okay. And then one thing comes to the other end, the compliance. Compliance basically is verifying of checklist of, attention, good engineering practices.
So this feels like you could be easily called the party pooper when what you're trying to do is make people's parties work.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think that's a human bias, right? People don't like to be told no. And if you need to say it and somebody needs to say it and you're the one who has to, now you're getting into a situation where, as you said, they shoot the messenger. So
Yeah.
the other question is blame, because I know that a lot of people say, well, you're stalling my project, you are
Yeah, I
slowing
could
me
be
down.
faster.
I why do I have to go through this crap? So you're putting all this on compliance for causing this, but they're not the ones who actually cause the problem, right?
Right. You plan a trip through a desert. Then you prepare your car, you check your gasoline, if you can afford it these days, you check the gasoline, and then you want to start, and then comes compliance and say, okay, did you also check the water? Don't slow me down. I want to drive now. Basically, what we check in compliance is almost everything something that makes sense. There might be regulations that you don't understand from your perspective, yes, but all of them have a background that makes sense.
Yeah, but aren't you saying, and I've never seen it from that side, you're actually dissing the project teams for the poor execution of their craft? Or
Yeah.
in other words, they don't know what they're doing, right? And they just try to get away with the minimum amount of effort, and everything else is a distraction. Is that the right interpretation of what you just said?
Absolutely not. In parts, yes, because of also they don't do this because they like to do it that way. They also only want to do their job. They want to develop a piece of software, and maybe they asked GM for his requirements and he didn't answer. So I invented something, or I had a quick talk with him and I interpret the rest of the stuff. Or I had this by myself. I was asked from a company to develop a piece of software with my team, and the department lead said, "Okay, I take the pressure out of the team. I do the requirements." And then we started to dig into the requirements and we did the work. And finally, we presented the software that is tested by the head to the team. And I presented it and I recognized how the temperature in the room gets lower and lower and lower. Becomes silent in the room, and then finally one of the team sits up and say, "Hey, Mr. I don't remember the name. We don't work that way since 3 years anymore."
Yeah, remember the idea of shift left? We had a guest,
Yeah.
gosh, Roland, years ago, who was the focus on the shift left mentality.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall who that was, but you talk about the cost increasing with each milestone
Yeah.
of a project to make significant change.
Right.
And that's really a case for bringing compliance in early in a conversation to use their resources as you're going through the decision making stage. Because by the time you get to the presentation and fixing it after the fact, you're way too late to have contacted compliance and make sure that they're helping you to shape what you're doing. I will say, and I want to get your perspective on this as well, that compliance is also it's both the boogeyman and it's also a tool for people who aren't really ready for change. And I mean, that's maybe a very unkind thing for people to do, but it's also extremely human. Tell me a little bit about this, like using compliance to purposely derail projects.
Often compliance or the regulation is blamed for not being able to do something. German, very well loved is the GDPR, data privacy stuff. Oh, we can't do a podcast because of GDPR. You see my face there, so therefore it's not allowed.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Oof.
Just sign the
Um,
damn paper. Just sign the damn paper and you're done.
You have not sent the paper to me. But basically, that's the answer. Also, this is not because people think want to make the life worse, but they want to cover themselves. I don't know how to handle this. I'm still at 120%. How should I handle one thing more? And then comes the thing I was so, oh no, this is GXP relevant. We can't do this. It's patient safety. Sorry.
Yeah, isn't that a failure in all seriousness? And maybe I'm biased, and you and I spoke about that. I think that's an architectural issue, right? So you don't have the people who take the step back before you get started with something to figure out, okay, what do we want to do? What are the constraints on this thing? Who do we have to speak with? And then the other thing that I'm thinking is when I look at organizations here in America, you typically see a three-layered lines of defense, right? So you have the org unit to identify the risks in the processes, yada, yada. You have the second line who's managing the risk and control framework and the testing and all those things. And then you have the third line, which is the independent audit, which is obviously the guys who everybody fears. But if you bring those three layers, those objectives into a project very early on and say, hey, by the way, you need to identify your risks. Or by the way, you need to show to us that you've thought about that and that you put controls in your processes and by extension into your software,
Yeah.
right? And all those things. I think that would make everybody's life way easier. Or am I hallucinating now?
No, that's it. Full stop. We are done for today.
Oh, well, it was great having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You can imagine, Christoph and Roland, particularly, this becomes a huge conversation now when we look at the age of AI. Because, I mean, as much as I think that the AI is a fantastic development in some ways, I think that there's a lot of pressure from rapid innovators to blow past this idea of compliance. Like they always say, like, listen, you're slowing down the pace of innovation, and innovation to us is sacred. And so how do we get away from this compliance driven model of only deploying with a certain set of checks and balances in place? How do we deploy and then fix later, or how do we just deploy?
Christoph, before you answer, I have a question for JM. What is the number of dead people that you're willing to take who eat your pills because you didn't want to slow down the innovation? Tell me, is it one? Is it
Roland,
10? Is it
that's a
100?
trade secret. I can't tell you that. We couldn't possibly disclose that number. But
Okay.
honestly, like, Christoph, you've seen the same thing over and over again, which is companies deciding that regulatory fines are a cost of doing business. That bad publicity is a cost of doing business from processes that fail. How do you make the case to somebody who is in a rapid innovation field that compliance is still relevant for them, even if it appears to create this artificial molasses they have to wade through before they can see their innovation realized?
As often the answer is not completely simple, not simple to digest. As my thinking is, we are asking the wrong question, therefore we're getting the wrong answer.
Okay.
We are not too slow. Speed is not the issue. If you're looking into the numbers of McKinsey or other big consultancies, we have between 65 and 95 percentage of failed digitization projects. Should we do more failed project faster, or what is the goal?
Depends on who you ask. If I'm an implementer, yeah, bring them on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think the saying is coming from the special forces who are saying slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So we should do things in the beginning slower to become smooth, and that makes us fast. And this is true for projects too. Let's look into it. At first look, okay, what is the aim? And the current AI hype is a perfect example for this. Everyone wants to do AI. Every issue is solved by AI. We need a solution with AI for this. And if you would have made a step back and looked into the issue and the requirement a user has, you maybe would have seen that a simple 2-line Python script has solved the issue too.
I'm thinking about that cartoon. I don't know if you know it. It's like 8 panels, and it's like what the customer wants, a swing on a tree, what the consultant heard, how it was documented, what was delivered, that type of stuff. If I find it, I put it in the show notes. But I agree with you, right? It's like taking a step back, and looking at what you really want to accomplish. Maybe we give our audience a little break. So let me ask you, dear audience, have you seen that? Compliance is seen as a roadblock. The whistleblower who whatever is the party pooper, right? Who's to be blamed for underlying project issues. How have you seen that in your organization, right? Or is that all smooth sailing because you're best buddies with your 3 lines of defense? I'd be really curious, but to give you a little bit time to think about that, we're going to play a little bit music and we're going to see each other in a few seconds.
And we are back with our second section and our wonderful guest, Christof. Now, Christof, we've talked about shaping this perspective of why a compliance team is important and how interacting with them is an asset, not a liability. But let's talk about the how, the practical way in which you can generate this positive collaborative relationship that results in outcomes for your organization that you actually want and that you're ready to receive. So first and foremost, why do you think compliance can act as a competitive advantage for an organization?
Compliance is showing where you don't follow your own rules. So if you use compliance as an indicator to show where you don't follow your processes, or where your processes don't follow the reality, you can use this as an indicator, as a driver to improve your organizational structure, to make the organization suitable to the process, or the process suitable to the customer, or and so on and so on.
So use it as a canary in the coal mine. And by
Yes.
doing that, you're better ready to improve your processes
Right.
where they need focusing first. And if you're first in that way, you're first to improve service delivery, your customer experience, reliability, repeatability, and that's a competitive advantage. Yeah, I can see that. You're helping to increase the resiliency of the scaffolding that makes up the underpinning of your company.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about that as safety breaks then. How do you establish and maintain the compliance department as an accepted safety break? So tell me about the interaction with stakeholders. Which stakeholders need to buy into that? How do you communicate that message effectively? And what does it look like when that's running at scale?
Let me take as an example what you just said. We create the idea of what we want to say in mind. And in the perfect world, it does not directly jump out of our mouth, whatever we thought, but we think about it a second time and maybe we rephrase it to become adequately to the recipient.
Never happens
not in
this
your
podcast.
case, Rowan.
Yeah, no, never happens. Yeah.
So, basically, our mind, our brain is working similar than a healthy company would do. We have separate systems in the brain that do separate things. One do assessment, one have great ideas, one rephrase it, one identify where to focus on. And only if all of the things work together, we have a suitable outcome at the end of the day. And compliance is one of the important pieces, or can be one of the important pieces in that game.
You still haven't sold me, Christoph, to be quite honest, because regulations are imposed on an organization from the outside. And we spoke about that in the first segment. Yes, they might have had a reason to be set up. Don't walk on broken legs. It's in the long term not a good thing. But we also, and maybe that's the cynical person in me who comes out, is regulations are written by politicians, and most likely and more often than not by lobbying groups and special interest groups and whatnot. And when I look at some decisions that have been made in the country that I'm currently living in, that corporations are persons and people can pay as much money as they want to get their will, that's not great, right? So there might be some interests in there. Is there a way, from your perspective, that organizations can deal with that, even though they might think that a regulations is nonsense or a burden that they shouldn't do, or are organizations at the losing end of this equation and they just have to show it?
Yes, in the realization of regulations, there is always a bias of those people that write it.
Mhm.
It would be the same if we would wrote the regulations, we would bring our own bias with it. That's true. But, and this is a big, but not with two T, just with one. All of the regulations I know of have been created because of companies doing not a good job,
Mhm.
not giving attention to the customer, not giving attention on the patient. So sometimes the regulations might be not well crafted, but the intention, from my perspective, you only get a law through the different parliaments and through the European, or I think also through the US administrations, if you have a good cause for it. If, especially for the pharmaceutical environment, the regulations came because people were hurt, died, and so on. That's the one thing. The second thing for me is, if I look into the regulation in the laws, I rarely see that they are that bad as they are realized in the companies. So many of the bad results, or the let's say bad regulations or bad realization of the regulations, happens in the companies, not in the law. Basically, one example from the pharmaceutical environment. We have some cases where, and only a few, where the regulation requires a signature. But what makes the company, what the company makes out of this, they place a signature at each and every step in the project. This is what slows the project down. But these signatures are not needed.
Is it laziness, or are they just going overboard to cover themselves in the case that they get called on it? So if someone's like, "Did you put a signature?"
Yeah.
You say, "Not only did I put a signature, I've got
Yeah.
10 signatures on this. You can't
Yes.
possibly come after me." But as a result of doing that, you yourself have created a huge amount of organizational
Yeah.
waste, kind of intentionally, which seems counterintuitive to all of the things we're trying to do. And I actually wanted to hone in on this, because we've been talking about some functions that having a compliance department that is well engaged does to help push projects across the line with the right information, with the right approach, with a clear view to what they need to do. I see some of those functions also satisfied by internal operational excellence departments. Is that just a
Yeah.
branding thing, or are they separate functions? Do they need to, does the terminology need to change in order to like make compliance feel positive? Or tell me about how those are different, and where they are different, how they interact with each other.
unfortunately, I don't think there is a simple answer to that too.
That's okay. We have an hour-long podcast for complex answers. That's the idea.
Perfect. Maybe let's take a step back and look how these overburdening things are created, or why are they created. You have this guy, Christof, in your company. He is responsible for creating this compliance stuff. And therefore, he has to approve the go live of your piece of software. And so Christof is well versed and he knows, okay, we only need one signature at the end prior we go on the prod. So, okay, Roland, you create the stuff, and then at the go live, you come to me and I sign off the things.
Mhm.
And then Roland comes today and he shows me the stuff and I say, okay, man, you have missed important things. We can't go live like that. And then Roland runs to GM, who is the CXO of our company. And in German, we say, gib mir einen Einlauf. How do we say this in English?
We will not translate this. We want to keep it PG.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I don't know what I'm missing, but all I can tell you is, hello, CXO here. How can I help you?
And basically, you are exploding and you are blowing up my my shoes and saying, okay, we need to do this. Life of the company is at risk. We need to move on. And what does Christof do in the following? He said, okay, I eat it this time, but for the next time, I want to have an approved requirement statement prior you are allowed to start.
I think the problem is not that people can't read. That might also be an issue, but I think it might be overwhelming for project teams. They have that big idea. Oh, I want to create this thing, and they have so many things on their plate. Why should I talk to those people who make my life miserable? You know what I mean? Maybe I can get away because Big Daddy JM will push it through anyway. In your little example,
this was not a detail that I wanted to point it out, that you are the lazy guy. But for the next time
true.
this happens to me, I would implement something to save my personal ass.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want not to be in the situation once again that GM orders me to his desk and
you have a nice conversation,
tells me what's right.
You see a lot of people doing this kind of like, oh, I'll let it slide this time, but next time you got to do better.
Yeah.
And then you do that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And what do you have? You just have a process of exceptions. You have a process of interpersonal like communication where you find like the moment of relinquishing control, relinquishing compliance in order to satisfy business requirements. And that's where we talk about like the chief revenue officer driving compliance, which, oh my goodness, like that's the last person you should have telling you whether or not your products are compliant, because their incentives is entirely to release stuff to the market and see a revenue growth, even if it's going to cost you in the long term, even in the medium term, because you're going to have products shipped before they're ready. You're going to have regulatory obligations that are breathing over you down your neck. And eventually you can be looking at fines. I mean, we see massive fines levied, particularly on financial institutions. But somebody got their bonus when they rolled out the capabilities that they have later been fined billions of dollars for. So the question that I think I want to get back to is this idea of trust, because you need to find a spark of trust between senior executives who need to deliver on capabilities to achieve their very large bonuses and compliance teams who are looking out for the needs of the organization and in some ways representing for the public good that is instilled in the organization's operations through the requirements set out by laws. How do you create that relationship of trust? Like, tell me what that conversation looks like and tell me structurally how an organization lays that out and enshrines it with ownership so that it can actually happen.
And we have an additional layer of missing trust after this first exploded project with Roland, because after that he does not trust me too.
Right.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah,
have a
you stabbed me in the back.
bidirectional distrust. Yes. And
Mhm.
I sabotaged your nice fancy project.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
vibe
did go to
coded.
the
Vibe
CXO
coded.
and that here you didn't. Yeah,
Ha,
perfect.
and yeah, now you're like, oh, can I get that compliance guy out of here?
And this is just because you published our customer database. It's okay.
Yeah, sharing is caring. Where's the
So
problem?
Yeah,
let's enshrine this in an operational model. What does
yeah.
that look?
The bad news and the good news is we only need a single little ingredients to improve this. And as you said, it's trust. Because both sides, all participating sides, need trust in each other. I need trust that Roland maybe do a failure like I do, but he does not do it by intent. He does not do it to make my life worse, so that we can have a trustful communication as early in the process as possible.
Yeah, I'm just
Because
incompetent.
if Roland fears me, he does not speak with me. He does
True.
in contact with me at the latest possible time, and then it's pre-programmed. So we need to get in contact early. We need to reduce the effort to bring in things and to assess things. So Roland has an idea.
Yeah.
Shout it out to the compliance team, discuss it with them, and say, okay, this can be done, but you need to give attention on this, this, and this. Oh, okay, good to know.
Yeah, I think it's trust is one thing. I think the other thing is ownership, to be quite honest. And I'm a big fan, even in the context of agile, uppercase A. I'm a big fan of having diverse teams, right? So bring in the different perspectives because everybody sees things from a different angle, and I think I'm still convinced that this creates a better output. But I think the other problem that I've seen in organization is the um, ownership issue. Who owns this thing? And I've worked with risk and compliance organizations who just took a step back. Oh, no, no, no. We're just providing risk and compliance data to the organization. You will have to decide what you do with it, right? Instead of saying, no, no, no,
Yeah.
I'm the link between the regulation and you being in jail with at least 1 foot, and I have to make sure that we're on the safe side, so that's a different attitude of your role, and you obviously will act differently in those two scenarios. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah. So indeed, for me, the pharmaceutical laws there, as stated again, often laws have a basically a good common sense behind it. Not every time well crafted, but what do they say? They say the responsible person for a realization of something is the process owner. He is also responsible, or she, to run it compliant. And if you follow that, it says basically that one who operates it is responsible. Not only in the bad, but also in the good. Because if I want to have something, I need to ask IT to craft it well. I need to know what is my own responsibility. What am I asked for by the laws?
That's interesting. That's a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, as a process owner, my job is to create something that I think is as fast and as like profitable as possible, and regulatory obligations be damned, I'm going to let compliance come and make that a negotiation with me. Like, I'm going to try and go fast. They're going to try and go slow. And together, we're going to go as fast as I can make them let me. You say, no, everything is actually your responsibility. Now you're simply taking a wide variety of perspectives and you own everything about it, including ensuring as part of your design that compliance is
Yeah.
accounted for. That's a very different, that's a shift in perspective. So instead of having and this is point to you, Roland, instead of compliance being like a function of like being the police and there is a police captain, it's that
Mhm.
everyone is a diligent citizen and the police are there just to tell you what the laws are, to make
Yeah.
sure that you know what they are before you make your decision on how you're going to act. That's a
And are by
that,
your side. And
yeah,
yeah.
that lowers the responsibility down to an individual process owner level across the board, which means that it's almost a lot scarier because a lot more people have to take personal responsibility for the integrity of the process. Oof, scary but powerful, right?
I agree. I agree. But let's bring it. Let's bring it. Maybe that's the last question for this show here. If you had your druthers, Christoph, once in a while you get the magic wand to change things. What would be the things that you would implement in your organization to make things run better, smoother, to build the trust, to whatever, change the cut? What is it? What you would do if you had your druthers?
Am I the CXO? Then I
Oh,
have the
you're the CEO. You're the owner of the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can change things with a word. What do you say?
then I have the power. I can live and lead by example. I trust you prior you earned it. It's a tough one. It's not an easy one. And if you as my members of my team do a failure, the failure is on me. I give you the safety to do a failure.
So you're saying you want to be the role model for good behavior, and then your employees will assimilate to this? Because at the end of the day, trust needs to be earned, right? It's not just a marketing slogan.
No, trust needs to be given.
Ooh, that's one hell of a turn. I like it. I like it. You are both right, I think. Like there
Yeah.
is an element of earning and
Yeah.
maintaining, but somebody's got to offer the olive branch. Somebody's got to
Yeah.
act first. And
And this
Christoph,
comes
if your
from
pitch
above.
is, yeah, as a CEO, as CXO, you instill trust and your ask back is to take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's an idea of doing business with integrity that
Yeah.
comes from a sense of responsibility and integrity to do a good job. And I think we struggle a lot with that culturally, in different markets. I mean, I know
Mm.
North America, there is a lot of cover yourself and see what you can get away with as a mentality. I know different parts of the world have different views on that. For instance, I know, like, from talking to a lot of folks who work in big companies in Japan, personal responsibility is paramount to how they operate. So that's a system of, like, being able to count on each other
Yeah.
and having all these expectations that are placed on you, but you feel empowered to, and you feel proud of your ability to execute against your promises. So you
Mm.
every day earn that trust, and you every day feel a sense of reward from demonstrating the execution of that trust successfully.
Yeah.
If you were to talk to a company that really struggles with that, with personal integrity, I know you can say, like, just burn it all with fire, right? But let's say that the company really wants to keep operating and the culture hasn't shifted towards this one of integrity. Do you start with trust, knowing that there will be a lot of exploiters in the organization? Where do you get an entry point to start to change hearts and minds towards this mindset that will lead to personal integrity you can rely on?
I'm a strong believer that there will not be too much exploiters if you
Hmm.
really live it. There might be. And this is the second important thing. You can't accept that too. If they are real exploiters, you need to cut them out, independently on what level that they are on. This is a German saying too. One apple spoils the whole basket, and that's true too, because then others see, oh, I can do it that way too. As a responsible person, as a leader, you need to give trust, then you earn it. And if people abuse this freedom, you need to remove them from the salary list.
Well, Christoph, I truly hope that that can work, and I also I want to have faith in organizations and in particularly in the leaders in organizations, to recognize what, because I hear this all the time, what a rock star actually is. And it's not necessarily delivering on business metrics one time. It is finding the personal integrity to grow the organization for a long time. It's not sugar, it's solid protein that will power you and your organization for a long time
Mm.
to come. And that's what I want to turn it back to our audience. We've been talking a lot about compliance, we've been talking about obligations, regulations, and the avatars of those things, which are people that frankly you often find trouble relating with if you've been dealing with compliance teams and struggling under their imposed rules. How do you see your personal integrity and the trust you have with those organizations? How has it changed over time? And what markers would you need to see to restore faith into those organizations? And what could they give to you that would help you feel better able to execute with integrity every day? It's a complicated question, but we'll leave you for a moment as we come to our final section and conclusion for the show.
And welcome back, Christof. Very interesting conversation. It went into some directions that I didn't expect. I think it's all about people, I guess. Not about what's the word in the book. But hey, how can get people into contact with you?
Yeah, important things first. I'm available on LinkedIn, so meet me there. And always
surprise.
happy. Surprise, surprise. Follow me on YouTube and somewhere look at my podcast and enjoy the show. Maybe you will link also the session with you, Roland.
I definitely will. I'm so self-absorbed that I would not miss that opportunity to do that. But yes, so for all the listeners who are driving around with their cars right now, and don't watch us on YouTube, please check the show notes on whatsyourbaseline.com to get the full extras and not just the little description that I put into whatever Spotify and YouTube, the little character limited thing. But hey, with that, JM, I guess it's time for you now,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's my pitch time. Listen, if you like us, if you love us, go to whatsyourbaseline.com/episode 112 for this particular episode. But you can also find us all over the internet, whether or not you're subscribed to us on YouTube or you follow us on LinkedIn, or maybe you're a friend of ours on Substack or you've subscribed to us on Patreon. Links here. You can come join our little show and give us feedback, get special perks and early access, behind the scenes looks. We would love to see you as part of our close-knit community. And of course, you can tell a friend. Please help spread the word of the show. We've been highlighted on all these different charts by FeedSpot, which is great to see. We love to find more people organically, not inorganically, through those sorts of word of mouth. I like what they had. Let me tell you a little bit more about What's Your Baseline to someone we don't know. So thank you again to our wonderful audience. You guys are fantastic. And you can always reach out to us at hello@whatsyourbaseline.com if you have any direct feedback without just commenting on a post on LinkedIn. And we'd love to involve people you would like to see and topics you'd like us to cover in our following episodes. But until then, I've been J.M. Erlinson.
I'm Christof Layher.
And my name is Roland Volt.
And we will see you in the next one.